On this Friday, I wanted to go over this FRQ that a lot of people struggled with, and it was not easy. Map of Southeast Asia. Please be studying, please be practicing and studying and practicing, joining Zooms if at all possible. Encourage others to join that haven't been joining us. Tell them, I hope it helps, but they need to be practicing as much as possible, getting some useful work in. But we'll go over this FRQ in particular. Remember, you got options to do FRQs on AP Classroom, the one that you can choose, many different options there. But on this one, it says, give a specific example of and explain a centripetal force that affects the viability of any of the states shown on the map above. Of course, being Southeast Asia, you can choose a lot of examples here. Some people choose Thailand, Myanmar, and talked about Buddhism as a common religion, or Indonesia and Islam, or the Philippines and Catholicism. I probably would have done the same thing. I would have talked about religion and how it brings people together, but you must talk about how, being of the same religion, they might have the same political beliefs, believe the same things about controversial issues, and therefore want the same things happening in their countries. So you got to do that full explanation and complete the loop. You also could potentially talk about like Cambodia being a compact state. That would also work, or Singapore maybe, or Singapore's economic wealth because of its port, small, and a lot of people having wealth there brings the country together. Their number one priority a lot of times is about, the betterment of the whole country and it being a wealthier place. But Cambodia being compact means that you don't have to travel as far to get stuff from one place to another, so there's not as much uneven distribution of wealth. The government has an easier time financing infrastructure, roads, stuff like that, and they also can communicate easier from place to place. So those are just some examples. There are many more, but those are examples. B, give an example of something that's centrifugal and how it affects the viability. Explain that. I would use Indonesia or the Philippines myself and talk about their fragmented states with many islands. It's hard to communicate. It's hard to have transportation. It creates cultural diversity. It could possibly lead to devolution. That's what I would do. Now, you could talk about the Rohingya in Myanmar and the Muslim minority inside that Buddhist country with a military leadership there. You could talk about other ethnic differences in Thailand, maybe. And I wouldn't do that, though, unless I knew the names of those, or I had them, I guess, for this test down beside of me. I would stick to the idea of unification based, or not unification, but the easier ones, such as using the fragmented state and stuff like that. C part, describe, means I need to be very detailed, a major demographic consequence of a political conflict. So what is a population consequence of a political conflict or issue that's occurred in one of the states since World War II? So Vietnam War is one of those. You could talk about it. And how would it affect demographics? Well, yes, there would have been many people killed. That's a consequence of it. So you talk about the war that America was involved in, the Cold War that occurred in Vietnam. And so therefore, many of their fighting age men in particular would have been wiped out from the population. But also, there were a lot of refugees because the war was more than just in Vietnam. And those people were looking for somewhere else to go. They were called boat people. Many of them tried to come to America. They went to other places in Southeast Asia. And so you would need to be descriptive of how it led to a mass exodus of people. Or you could use Myanmar and the Rohingya, where the Rohingya are trying to leave Myanmar because they say they're being ethnically cleansed and they're going to places like Bangladesh. So therefore, there's been this demographic consequence of a mass exodus of people from one country in the region to another country just outside the region. Those are the ones that I would have talked about. But again, in my description, I want to talk about this happened, which caused this consequence. There was a war, if it was Vietnam War between the North and the South, between the communists and the non-communists, the United States was involved in that war. It was a deadly war that lasted for a decade. And really, there had been war even before that. So a lot of people were killed. A lot of Vietnamese people were killed, and it affected the future of the country in that way demographically. All right? And also, then it leads to a demographic effect down the road, too, because if you have those people in the reproductive years killed, then there's less babies that are going to be born likely as well, too. We go on down to D part on this one, and we take a look here. Explain how each of the following terms applies to the Rohingya who live in the region: nation, state, and ethnicity. So it's a little tricky. I was tricky on purpose here. I wanted to see what you would do. How would the nation state apply to the Rohingya? Well, the Rohingya are not considered by many to be a nation, instead an ethnicity. I wanted to see if you could reach for, well, a nation state is when one culture group is in the same country. Why are the Rohingya supposedly being pushed out of Myanmar? They're not of the same culture. So what I was hoping you would reach for, and it's a reach, but is that the people of Myanmar, the dominant culture in Myanmar that are Buddhist, are trying to push for a more nation state identity, some people believe, and push the Muslim Rohingya out to create a nation state. In other words, the Rohingya are a kind of collateral damage of that. All right. That's how you would explain that. So what's happening, how it's happening, how they're connected. Ethnicity, the Rohingya are an ethnicity, and they are being targeted as a culture group that are of this religion, Islam, for their ethnicity, which stands out. They're an enclave, a cultural enclave in this area. Nobody else is really like them. And matter of fact, you can tell by where they're often going to, Bangladesh, another Muslim country, that they feel their culture, their ethnicity is what is actually under attack. Right? And then lastly, explain another group of people in Asia who have struggled to gain local autonomy. There are many, many examples that you could have picked here. Some people use Tibetans in Western China. That's a good one. You could use the Kurds. You could use, you could use several, the people on the islands east of East Timor could have even been used here. But any groups in Asia, Chechens for that matter, that have tried to gain local autonomy, people of the Sikhs, maybe, Kashmiris, maybe, in the Kashmir situation between India and Pakistan, that have struggled to gain local autonomy, talk about where they are, why they're struggling, what they're struggling with, who they're in a conflict with, and that's how you would get the points. So I'm not going to go through like all kinds of examples. I'll use the Kurds. So the Kurds live in the midst of Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and Syria. They are an ethnic group that views themselves as a nationality. They actually see themselves as a nation. They want local autonomy. They basically run their own areas, but the places they live in, the countries they live in, or states do not want that because there's oil and water and wealth there, and they have heavily persecuted the Kurds in the past and want to limit them in their ability to govern and take economic benefits from that area. So that's how I would approach it. Hopefully this helps with this FRQ. Don't forget the Zoom's coming up on Friday at 11:30 and 1, and we'll get to talk about some more stuff. Big Zoom day on Monday. Hope you're able to participate with us as we'll count down, basically go through the topics, check the schedule on Schoology, and work this weekend. Again, work this weekend. I'm going to be real busy on Saturday, so I may not get scoring or anything done until either late Saturday night or sometime during the day on Sunday. But if you do need anything, send me a message. If I don't respond back real quickly, again, I will be pretty busy for at least the first part of the weekend. So hope this helps. Keep working, keep churning, help each other, reach out and be a leader. Push some of those people that are not pushing themselves. All right. Thank you, guys.